Proposed, National Museum of Asian and Pacific Islander Americans, Washington, D.C. A national museum preserving the history, culture and accomplishments of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, AAP, may be erected in Washington, D.C. in the future. On July 31st, U.S. Rep. Grace Meng, D-Queen, introduced new legislation examining the possibility of creating such an institution, which would be the first in the nation. Entitled The Commission to Study the Potential Creation of a National Museum of Asian Pacific American History and Culture Act, the bill will create an 8-member panel consisting of individuals with various expertise in museum planning for AAP research and culture to look into the viability of establishing such a facility in the nation's capital. The measure would require this commission to. The bill would also direct the commission's recommendations to address whether the museum should be part of the Smithsonian Institution, the world's largest museum and research complex. The commission would have 18 months to complete the full study. We need to weave the narrative of Asian American and Pacific Islander communities into the greater American story. I firmly believe the story of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders is sorely misunderstood, and creating a national museum would ensure that our experiences, both good and bad, are recognized by all Americans, said Meng. Museums are gateways for Americans and the world to see the United States' rich history, challenges it overcame, and potential for greatness. Establishing this commission is the first step toward the creation of a national AAP museum. I urge my colleagues to support this legislation. A gallery of our own. On May 18, the Smithsonian Asian Pacific American Center launched a $1 million fundraising drive for permanent gallery space on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The Smithsonian's initiative on documenting Asians in America started humbly enough 2 decades ago, with a borrowed exhibit in a borrowed museum wing and a tiny staff. There was a National Museum of the American Indian attached to the Smithsonian, and progress was being made toward a museum on the National Mall celebrating African Americans' history. But Asian Americans, in the 90s, remained a largely invisible population, with few people represented in entertainment, politics, sports or business. Those years were tough, said Franklin Odo, director at the time of the Smithsonian's Asian Pacific American program. Whenever we needed to do a public lecture or exhibit, I had to go back one of these other institutions to lend a space, Odo said. We had to really convince our colleagues that this was a field, this was a demographic that needed to be recognized and needed to be held with some respect. If successful, an Asian American gallery could join museums and galleries dedicated to other historically underrepresented groups that have staked out space in a national park that is quintessentially American. Millions of people visit the National Mall every year to tour the White House, Lincoln Memorial and the treasures of the Smithsonian. The ability to have that visibility and recognition is so important, said Lisa Sasaki, the center's director. Despite temporary exhibits along the mall, she said, there has never been a dedicated space where the public could consistently visit and find out about the history and culture of Asian Americans. Fastest growing minority Asian Americans are the nation's fastest growing minority and number about 20 million, or roughly 6% of the population. They come from more than 20 countries, with the largest populations from China, India, Vietnam, Philippines, Korea and Japan. They range from recent immigrants to descendants of laborers who migrated in the 19th century to build the Transcontinental Railroad and work sugar cane fields in Hawaii. Museum presence is huge, said Laura Law, President and CEO of the American Alliance of Museums. Museums preserve what's important to society. They tell our stories, give historical context to contemporary issues and help us imagine a better future, she said. Odo, the former director, said he had one part-time staffer and no exhibits of his own when the program began in 1997, so he borrowed one from the Los Angeles Museum for the program's first installation, about the evolution of field lunches of Japanese immigrants in Hawaii. He says the Asian American community has evolved enough as an identity to support a permanent gallery dedicated to their shared experience in America. I don't know that we have an Odo said, referring to Oprah Winfrey's charitable foundation, which donated millions to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. But we have lots of people with immense means, so there's no question in my mind we can do this. Sasaki said $1 million is a fundraising goal for phase 1 of the project. Congressional approval is not required for a gallery within existing space, unlike the standalone 400,000 square foot, 37,160 square meter, National Museum of African American History and Culture, which opened in 2016. The Smithsonian Asian Pacific American Center is conscious of showing not just how Asians came to America, but how they have shaped American history. An example is a pin marking a successful 1960 second grade boycott led by Mexican American and Filipino American laborers, who chose to band together. It tells a richer story about California history, said Theodore Gonzalez, a Smithsonian curator. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.